Hi there, this is Emil Franchi from the GallowgateShots YouTube channel, normally doing the player ratings videos for Newcastle. Today, having a little look at Miguel Almiron's impact in his first few games as a Newcastle player. Okay, so I'm joined by Elliot Holman from the MLS UK show. MLS, obviously, something that not a lot of Newcastle fans will have taken much interest in before the introduction of Miguel Almiron, our record signing. But, Elliot, you obviously knew a lot about Miggy before he came to the UK.
Yeah, good to speak to you, mate. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of people in the UK don't have much time for the MLS, and hopefully, seeing what talent, raw talent, Miggy's got and has instantly brought to a league, a prestigious league like the Premier League. Hopefully, everybody can kind of start to realise that actually there's a fair bit of talent over there.
Yeah, because I think that was kind of the main thing that a lot of fans have had about just this. It's saying, yeah, well, okay, he's playing very well in the MLS, but quite frankly, that's like playing at Sunderland's level, I guess, in League One. Just get that.
Nothing's that bad
in there. No, okay, fair enough. Well, I guess kind of the first question is, obviously we've seen a bit of what Almiron can do, but what do you think the main doubts were, not just for Almiron, but for any player coming over from the MLS?
I think instantly you've got to look at raw talent before you get to anything else. I think over here, scouts as well as fans have been very reluctant to get involved with players that are playing in MLS. And actually, yes, I do an MLS UK podcast, but you won't be surprised to know that I totally disagree. I think there's a lot of clubs in the Championship that would quite easily get turned over by MLS teams. I genuinely mean that. I think the standard is way, way better than people believe. And I'm actually really pleased to see clubs like Newcastle scouting really, really heavily, looking really closely, checking out Almiron. I know it was a long while. I know they took a long time to decide and to get the deal across the line, but it's really, really good. It's really encouraging. And I think that raw talent is that first hurdle. However, it's the biggest concern for me with Miggy wasn't his talent. I knew that he could come and do it in England in the Premier League. It was more a case of the physicality. I think he's very quick. He's very creative. I was a little bit concerned as to whether he could deal with the physicality. And the first game I watched, he drew a foul almost straight away, and I thought, actually, do you know what? I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I would got to agree with you there. I think it was the Wolves game when he came off the bench, and I think that most fans were just really excited by the speed at which he took to the game, and we mentioned about the physicality there, but sometimes in the Premier League, a foul can be almost like a game winner or a game changer if it's in the right position.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, letting him take free kicks is also a little bit of a bonus. He won games by himself for Atlanta last season from dead ball situations, whether it was a cross, whether it was a shot on goal. And Atlanta this season, despite having what I would look at and consider a really good, strong roster of players, they look absolutely nothing without him. It shows what an integral part he was. He plays that key role. He wants the ball. He wants to travel. He wants to be positive with it. He's so creative. He's got incredible vision. And they really, really are struggling without him so far.
It's interesting to see how he's really developed into the game. I think that the biggest reaction that Newcastle fans got for Almiron was in that first home game that we saw him against Huddersfield. Obviously started the game, got a player sent off for Huddersfield. I say got a player sent off. He was a pretty dreadful foul. But all in all, that was kind of a bit of a spark for Newcastle. I don't know if you've followed us this season, but it was pretty drab, to be honest. We're doing too bad, but everyone was saying that we've been scouting him for a while, but some things happened with Newcastle. We've gone on that run, the opening 6 games. I think that Almiron's played, apart from one, we're unbeaten. It's quite exciting to see how easy he's come into Rafa's team, linked up with the likes of Perez and Rondon, who have been given almost like a new lease of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I have followed his progress quite closely. It's interesting. I've been intrigued to see how he settles in, how he manages to bridge that gap. It's also a good indication for us of where MLS is at. He was a very good player in MLS, maybe not the best in the league, but certainly up there. So it's very interesting for us to kind of see where MLS stands up against the Premier League. And in terms of the boost that he's brought, I think there's two sides to this. First of all, any record signing, we all know it's well documented. It's been a long time since Newcastle United have spent that amount of money, and I think anybody coming in would have raised morale a little bit. I think it shows a really great deal of intent from the club, which let's be fair, it hasn't always been there. It's very important that they've kind of put the cash up there and gone for this and to make it happen. Rafa got his man. I think that's really important. You back your manager. And I think no matter who came in, whoever it was, as a record signing was always gonna improve the side. We know there's a massive gap between Championship and Premier League. So Newcastle United have got a very good squad, but compared to a lot of Premier League teams, it's nowhere near. And it's so difficult to bridge that gap between the lower end of the Premier League and the top end. And so actually, I think the fact that it is Miguel Almiron, I think Newcastle's the perfect club for him to go to, because he was in MLS, but actually he can walk into that Newcastle United side as we predicted and be a star. The difference in quality is not that big, and we haven't been surprised to see the impact that he's made. Would he have done it at Man City? No, he wouldn't have been given the opportunity. This is why Newcastle is the perfect place for him to be. Newcastle need him as much as he needs them, and I love it. It's like a match made in heaven.
That's what we like to hear. It's what we love. Let's just hope that it's not Man City coming in from eventually, probably in the summer or something like that, the way he's going. But just speaking of that impact there for Almiron, no real actual assists. I know that it's quite hard to believe, but most of his impacts have been very much from just making a quick move or a shot. Namely, the ones that we've got is a shot against Pickford the other week and the amazing comeback against Everton. It was a great shot, which was then parried to Perez. And I think that really, although he's had loads of shots on goal, yet no actual goals, there is a bit of excitement around that. And I think that the standout moment for me was just the other week against Bournemouth. It was the run that he made. I don't know if you saw it, but it was away from running away from Newcastle's box, broke away. Bournemouth players, Jordan Ive, really struggling to keep up, and they literally had no other choice but to take him down. And then Rondon scored the free kick. Is that kind of something that he was known for in the MLS?
Yeah, Atlanta United played a very counter-attacking style. They weren't amazing at the back. There's always a lot of goals in MLS games, but the way that I'll be honest with you, it was frightening to watch. They've got other players of Almiron's level, I'll be honest with you, and watching them work together, it's like a stampede. The way they go from box to box is absolutely frightening. I've never seen anything like it, and Miggy was a integral part of that, shall we say? But I think you're right. Fans love to see a positive, quick player. We all love football. We don't need to look at the stats to decide whether a player is good or not. We all see these Twitter accounts that will, I saw it for James Maddison, for example. James Maddison's created more chances than Messi, in this season, but he's not in the England squad. But we can manipulate stats to sort of look however we want. But when we're watching games week in, week out, and we're watching Almiron, those assists will come. Those goals will come. We don't, there's absolutely no hesitation in saying that whatsoever. Fans love a player that will be positive, that will carry the ball. And it's about that transition, especially in the Premier League. Going back to Sunday League, if you've got the ball, they can't score. And the way that, the way that he can bring that excitement, the way that he can keep the ball, that he can move at pace and transition into a counter attack is so key, and it doesn't matter about assists. They'll come. You just know within the next couple of weeks, the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll probably be looking back going, oh well, he's got like 3 assists now. That's just a matter of time. That's what happens. But you know, I love to see a player that's positive every time he gets the ball. He wants to go forward. He wants to pick out a pass or maybe run and dribble and eat up a little bit of yardage. And Almiron is perfect for that. And I think you have to be really careful at just judging on stats alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've hit the nail on the head there with Newcastle fans. Just in general, we love a player who tries, and I think that Almiron would definitely after this amount of games say if he hadn't done what we expected him to do or hoped he would do, which he obviously has, there was an element there that we might have maybe judged too soon. But I think that the way that Almiron was announced, the way that he's kind of just come into the team, tried straight away, he's almost got himself an instant win because he didn't have to do anything more than that. All he had to do was turn up on that first game, put a bit of effort in, and really, I don't think any fan's going to turn around and go, look, mate, you've not done enough, given your price tag. A lot of that's probably down to the fact that we've not spent like that in a while, but most chances created since January. I think that's a stat that you cannot argue with, and I think it's only a matter of time until we see a goal, see a little bit more magic, because I think there's still something there where we've seen the flair, but to a certain extent, something's gonna just go boom for every fan in the Premier League. Do you reckon?
Yeah, and also like you just hit the nail on the head in terms of the stats. Assists, you know, chances created has gone through the roof. Now, is it his fault that they're not being put away? You know, I mean,
don't kick us while we're down. we know.
But you know, with respect to the forwards at Newcastle, you know, could he be supplying better players? At the end of the day, like I say, those assists will come because those chances will start to be put away. I like this Newcastle side. I really do. I like the way that they're going about things now, and I'm really hopeful for this partnership. I really like the Rondon Almiron partnership. I think this could really, really work. And you know, like you say, the assist is only one thing, and I think actually, for as much as all those chances are being created, let's try and stick some of those away.
Yeah, it's obviously he's had a fair few easy tests, you might say, in the Premier League so far. And it's just the way that the fixtures have fallen. But he's only really got 2 games against the top 6 to come, which is Arsenal and Liverpool before the season's done. So do you reckon that he's going to be one of those players that kind of can do well against those teams as well as your likes of Huddersfield and such?
I think everybody was extremely sceptical about an MLS player going to the Premier League, and it was a generalisation. So I think no matter who he plays, people were thinking he's going to struggle. I've not seen any evidence that he's struggled so far. I don't believe that, you know, whether he's playing up against Virgil van Dijk or you know, a struggling Huddersfield side, I don't believe he's going to change the way he plays his game. And I think the top teams may struggle to deal with that a little bit. A lot of teams will try and sit in, maybe play an extra holding midfielder. If Miggy's on the pitch, he's going to do one thing and one thing only, and he's going to try and drive forward. He's going to try and be positive. And I think it just offers something different that, I'll be honest with you, not a lot of teams in the Premier League have got, especially in the lower half of the table.
Definitely. It's a little bit of something that can just set you apart from your Burnleys and Leicesters and things like that maybe are just that middling ground now. Obviously, you're from the MLS UK show. You've spoken about Atlanta since Almiron's gone. Just from my perspective, I've seen that they're missing something. So is that kind of something that you could agree with, or is that am I just misinformed?
They're certainly missing something. It's mainly Miguel Almiron, I'll be honest with you. But they've also been involved in their equivalent of Champions League, and there's been heavy fixture congestion. And their new coach, Frank de Boer, not a fan of rotation, clearly. So he's just tried to stick with the same 11, and it's not really worked out. He's also tried to change in formation. For me, there was 3 things that were key to Atlanta last season. It was Miggy, it was the coach, and it was Martinez, who he was feeding a lot of goals to. Now, they've kept Martinez. Miggy and the coach have gone. It's Tata, who was, of course, at Barcelona. So I think there's a few factors at play here: a change of formation, fixture congestion, a lack of rotation, change of coach, loss of Miggy. But look, don't underestimate the impact that he had, and the fact that they just don't seem that big positive counter-attacking side anymore. They're using wings a lot more because they don't have that central focus down the middle, and they'd have him back in a heartbeat. Don't you worry about that. But I noticed he's unfollowed Atlanta on social media. So
no, that's the ultimate betrayal.
I know.
He's an interesting chap on Instagram, I must say. I do quite enjoy his nice life with his missus, I guess. Obviously, we don't like to talk about the dismantling of the MLS when something is really emerging over in the States. But you've mentioned Martinez. Some people were saying that if Miggy goes to Newcastle, will Martinez follow, or maybe just to the Premier League? Are there any players similar to Martinez or in the MLS who you can see coming over to the UK?
I'll be honest. I think there's a lot. I think we've got a lot who have been in the UK and have moved over to MLS, and I think there's a lot of talent over there. Alphonso Davies left Vancouver Whitecaps to go to Bayern, and scored the other day. At 18 years old, I think he is. It's incredible. There's so much talent over there. Orlando have just recently signed Nani, who, again, when we talk about stats,
it's always nice to hear his name. Always nice.
Nani. He's got 2 assists, but hasn't played that well. And that goes back to the point earlier that we were saying about stats. But so much talent. I really want scouts to be heading over to MLS for. To have a good look at players. Like you say, we don't want to see it completely dismantled, but I think Miggy's proven that it's really not that much of a step up. I'm interested, like you say, to see how he does against those bigger Premier League sides.
Do you reckon that the MLS is maybe somewhere that the UK can send some of their loanees?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's a long way. For young players, it's a long way to go. Time difference, to be away from your family, etc. But if you can go over there and make that work, then I think we can see a huge benefit. Interestingly, looking at Stuart Webber, who left Huddersfield to join Norwich City, who have turned to their youth team like I've never seen anyone do before. He reckons that last season, most of their starting 11, the youngsters that have come through the academy this season, he reckons he tried to get them out on loan last year and nobody was interested. Nobody wanted them because they want these proven players. And actually, I think the loan system needs to be utilised across Europe and across the world a lot better, especially over here. Who doesn't want to go and play in America for a bit?
Of course, yeah. It's like a free holiday, Disneyland and everything. So got it all there. Just to kind of look ahead to the future, we've obviously touched on who's coming over, but the USA is going to have a World Cup to prepare for. Is that going to be something that the MLS is really going to shine in?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think the way that MLS is geared up, they have to play young players. There's a lot more rules. You don't get your Chelseas who just hoard a load of young players, never play them. They have to feature. They have to get minutes under their belt. They have to get game time. And the US men's national team and the Canadian national team will just get stronger and stronger for this. And obviously they're hosting their own World Cup in I think 2026. And I think by that point you could be looking at America with a very, very different perspective.
Could they win it?
I think that's a stretch.
All right, okay. Maybe jumping the gun too far there, but again, I hate to suggest it might happen, but knowing Newcastle's transfer policy in the past, it could. Where would you see Almiron going next if there is a team going to come in from?
Yeah, I mean, I know Arsenal were interested originally. At the end of the day, I think Newcastle, as we've discussed, is a much better fit. I don't. If they've put the money up to sign him and they've backed Rafa, I'd like to think this is that we're seeing, as an outsider, I'd like to see that this is the start of something for Newcastle. I'd like to see Rafa sticking around. I'd like to see more money spent. Let him build his team. Build it around Almiron, for goodness sake. He's that good. Yeah. And I don't see that he needs to go anywhere as long as they continue to back the manager, continue to sign better players. I don't see that he needs to suddenly now jump to an Arsenal or a Man City because he's not going to play. I do genuinely believe there'll be a lot of interest in him in the next couple of years, because I really do think he's that good, and I think we've already seen that. But I just think he's in the right place, and it's the same. We discussed Maddison earlier. I think he's in the right place at Leicester. He's not just sitting on the bench. Yeah, it's great to train with David Silva every day at Man City, but you need game time, and I think he's in the right place. Same with Miggy.
Yeah, that's brilliant to hear. But like you say, maybe those teams don't need Almiron. I think that, as you said, there's very similar styles of what he plays. So that's only good news for Newcastle. Just to pull away from the MLS briefly, because I know you're a fan. What do you make of Norwich's chances in the Premier League next year? Let's say in the Premier League next year, presuming it's going to happen.
I mean, it's tight, isn't it? I'd be disappointed if we didn't do it, but I'll be honest with you, I can't believe that Norwich are currently top of the Championship. I think the average starting 11's costing around £5 million, which is great. It's proof that you don't need to spend money. I think we've seen teams like Derby spend millions and millions and millions every single year and ultimately miss out. And I think it's great for football when we see the mess that clubs like Bolton are in, clubs like Birmingham having to spend and got no money. I think it's great. They've proven that you can do it. Anyone could have signed Timu Pukki on a free. Yeah, he was available to everyone in the summer. Norwich grabbed him, and 24, 25 goals already this season. In terms of next year, like we said, that step up is huge. The step up is absolutely huge, and I think. Do Norwich change their model? Do they now spend money to try and stay in the Premier League, or do they do what they've done and how they've been successful and use their academy kids? I don't know the answer to that. The one thing that I keep reiterating is I really hope that the coach Daniel Farke stays no matter what. Just signed a new deal. He's the one who's given these kids the opportunity. He's the one who's said, no, do you know what? The youth team trains with the first team. We're all one here. He's the one who's making all this magic happen. And, I don't believe it would be his fault if Norwich were to be relegated from the Premier League next season. I'd just like to see him at the club for the next 10 years and see where we end up.
Well, we look forward to visits to Carrow Road next year and welcome you to St James's Park. Knowing Newcastle's track record, it's probably only right that your top scorer there is going to probably get about 3 against us now that you've mentioned it. So there's probably just tempting fate with that. Elliot, how can people find the MLS UK show?
We're on anywhere where you normally get your podcasts. Just search MLS UK show.
Perfect. Simple as that. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us here at GallowgateShots, and hope to see more of the MLS in the UK soon.
Good to speak to you, mate.
Thanks very much for watching, listening, however you found us here on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. Please do subscribe if you liked it, like the videos, and keep an eye out for more content coming soon. The Always Smiling Faces podcast, player ratings videos with myself, and also FIFA predictions and the away say. See you soon.